What would you say you do here?
It's the Signal Chords, home of the Underground podcast. A podcast dedicated to up-and-coming bands, labels, artists, and more. Plug in and join your host, Brad Nunnery, as he dives deep into what the future of music has to hold and discover something new along the way. What else do you have to do?
Hello everyone, it's Cy from the Jackknives. You're listening to the Signal Chords podcast, the home of the underground. Good choice.
That was Heartbreak Queen by our good friends in the Jackknives. Many thanks to Cy for recording that promo for us. Really do appreciate it, man. Now, the Jackknives are all set to release their latest record called Into the Night on May 2nd via Fumier Records. It is produced by none other than legendary guitar player of the Bouncing Souls, Pete Steinkampf. And rumor has it that I might have them on the podcast here very soon-ish to discuss that record. So you heard it here first, and stay tuned, all right? So anyways, if you want to find out more about the Jackknives, you can visit them on any social media platform at the.jack.knives. All right, what's up, everybody? It's Brad with Signal Chords, home of the Underground podcast, Season 3, Episode 7, presented by my really good friend Jeff Small over at 1603 Designs. My guests tonight are Johnny and Andre. They are from the band Judo CHOP, a really killer punk rock band based out of Melbourne, Australia. Now, the band has released a couple new tracks called Stranded and Fearless. We're going to talk to those guys all about those songs, the making of them, and why it's taken them so long to release new music from their former EP called Shelf Life that was released 4 years ago. The fact that they have 3 guitar players and how they make it all work. A lot of really killer stuff in this conversation, so stay tuned. But right now, here is the latest song from Judo CHOP, and it's called Stranded. It's on Signal Chords, home of the Underground podcast.
Forget her, smile.
Johnny and Andre. What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Yeah, good, man. Well. I was just saying, as I spoke earlier, I've just come back from a karate lesson with my 5-year-old son. So feeling very sore and very tired. First bit of exercise I've done for about probably 15 years or so. So I'll be feeling it tomorrow.
Did you remember to stretch before you did that? Or did you just go straight into it? And
briefly, pretty much straight into it. Yeah, this is just like a 44-year-old body just getting punished.
Yeah, no, I took a walk the other day, and I was just like, I am so out of shape, sitting behind a computer every day for a job and all that kind of stuff. It's like, man, I'm about to turn 50, and it's just time is catching up to me, and it's just like everything hurts. You know the deal, and just trying to stay slim, and we can't do that when you're a father and all that kind of stuff. So
time is kind of it's very scarce. So yeah.
All right, so congratulations on the new single, Fearless. I absolutely love it. And it's just such a ripper. I love it. I love the fact that it's just all over the map, and I love the way that it starts, and I love the kind of the in the middle of the song where it kind of like slows down, and it has that, it's kind of a break because it's like straight in your face, kind of stuff, and then you kind of separate it, and then you go right back into it, which is really awesome. You catch your breath, and then you go right back into it, and that's what I love about this song. It's incredible. But my first question is, this is the first single since Conquer in 2023. So my first question is, where the hell you guys been?
That's a really good question. Andre, do you want to?
Look, there's been like physically, geographically, nowhere. We've just been hanging out at home, but it's just been stuff on the map. And I'd say one of the things you're looking at is Johnny, for instance. When we did the recording for Conquer, the way we do is track all the guitars ourselves, DI, and the room that Johnny's in wasn't built when we did Conquer the first one. So that has been part of the journey is to, you're talking about having families and whatever, is that Johnny's got a dedicated space so that we can actually be more efficient with our recording. So that was 12 months, Johnny, to get that studio up and running, you reckon?
I think so. Yeah, we'd spent a good few months recording Conquer, and that was literally in my lounge room after the kids had gone to sleep. So I was just really trying to navigate that tricky time of like, we need to keep the volumes low, guys. And we got the studio up and running, as it's kind of what you see here, and it's been awesome. It's a good little escape that we can just come out here and we can focus and really just not worry about anything else.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's really cool that you're able to do that, with 6 people in your band, trying to work out schedules and try to get everybody over, with technology, you probably record separately or whatnot. And how many opportunities do you get to have everybody in the same space? How does that work?
That's right.
Yeah, well, Johnny, you're the one who did that.
It's challenging. You mean sort of getting the same space in a jam room sort of sense, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like we live all over the place. So we live like from Victoria, Australia. And I would say we probably all 6 of us are from every corner of Victoria. That's what it seems like. So we've got someone. Singer Murray lives in a place called Colac. He's a real country boy. And for him to commute to a jam, that could be anywhere up to probably like I think 2.5, 3 hours. So Murray he doesn't sort of tend to come on a regular basis. If we've got shows coming up, that sort of thing, we're prepping. He'll start coming to those sort of jams. But generally, we make it work. We're all keen. We're all sort of motivated. We love what we're doing, and we're really passionate about it. So I think everyone just makes the time for that space. And we sort of get together probably once a fortnight, once a week as well, leading up to something important. Yeah.
And in terms of recording doing the tracking, it's fortunate that Johnny's location is pretty close to the other 2 guitarists. Having 3 in the band, so they can relatively easily get to Johnny's place as the hub, and which is it's got all the recording set up and consistency for gear and signal and all that. So that was part of the logistics around the recording, at least, was getting all you guys together on the guitars, and then me playing bass. I just did it myself at my place, so I was the one that I could do it remotely, I guess, pretty easily. So that's a nice thing. And then drums and vocals done in studios. So lining up those times and I mean, it took so long for this to come out. Where we recorded the drums, that studio doesn't exist anymore. So we didn't have it as an option to do vocals there, unfortunately, which we would love to. But no, they've come up great. Andy's done a great job with vocals anyway.
Yeah, it's probably worth noting. I think, like, overall, it's been quite a broken process. I think we would have done the drums at least, like Andre, 2.5 years ago, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't
maybe more.
That.
There's been a few little roadblocks on the way. I think Andre was doing his masters at the time.
I had to take a break for probably 8 months. I had to say, look, sorry guys, I can't do anything. Couldn't help.
Yeah, it just seems that with I mean, no matter how many people you have in the band, and kind of the older you get, the harder it is, right? Because you have kids, you have jobs, and you have to coordinate everything and all that kind of stuff. And it's just totally understandable that it might take you a little bit more time to put stuff out and all that kind of stuff, And kudos to you guys putting it together and putting out this song. And I really love it. Let's talk about Fearless and how long it took you guys. And you said you had the drums down for a while now, but what was the thought process about going in this song and saying, hey, we want to get, let's get together, let's put something out and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I'll kick it off a bit. I mean, it's Johnny's song, so I'll let him speak specifically to the way it was written. But in terms of our entire process, it really came down to us going, okay, well, if we're going to record, this song, for instance, then we're going to get in the studio to do the drums first, which means to make that really worth our while, we want a minimum of 5 songs, to sort of do in a group. So it's really, as much as this song was actually, I think, one of the first ones that we really signed off on. And I think we signed off on it really quickly because, Johnny can speak more to the way he wrote it, but in terms of what he showed us as a band, it needed very little to zero massaging from my memory in terms of guitar parts, all 3 parts being written, the drums, the structure, it just sort of fell into place. So that was kind of a good one to tick off and go, great, it's on the list of 5, but then it's getting those other 4 songs up as much as this one might be ready to go. So that's the other part, I guess. And some of those took more or less work than others. And so it's sort of, when you got all 5 wrapped on, sort of signed off on, then book that studio time in and get in. And I guess, from the other side of Fearless, in terms of the way it was, how it came together from my perspective as the bass player, I really enjoy, one of the biggest things I like about Judo CHOP is that people just sort of go, hey, here's some stuff, Andre, do whatever the hell you want. And that's really where I enjoy the writing process. That's sort of a big part of my writing process, because I'm not necessarily great. I can't play guitar, so I'm not coming up with riffs for everybody, but I like having that freedom. So for me to write the song, probably took, I probably had some initial ideas down pretty quickly. You reckon, Johnny? Maybe within a month. And then as I tracked a demo for it, you listen back, and then I just make little tweaks over time. But it fell into place. I think for this song was kind of just one of the easiest. It just sort of came together, didn't it? For me, at least, Johnny.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I think as we do a lot of our songs, I've been kicking around the song bank for many years, and I think Fearless was one I probably wrote. I reckon, we're looking maybe 2018, 19. I've had it sort of kicking around, and structurally, writing it came together, as Andre said, really easy. It's interesting. I have no theoretical sort of background when it comes to music, so positives and negatives that come with that. But I find it doesn't sort of conform or lock me into a box as such. So I tend to just go where the song takes you, which hence comes to that bridge section where it tapers off, and then we build up with the tapping guitars and come into a whole completely different outro. So it came together really quickly. So it was something that we just got in a room, and everyone just kind of was just on point, and it was all right, done. Let's move on. Next one.
No, absolutely. Now, how with you know, with everybody in the band, and what's your kind of dynamic as far as, you know, like Johnny, you said you had the song written and all that kind of stuff, and you show it to the guys. Like, is there a lot of back and forth kind of a deal, or is it more like, hey, this is, you know, let's write it to the way that Johnny wrote it and all that kind of stuff, or is there clashes at times, or is it just relatively easy? The last band I interviewed, they're like, hey, we yell at each other all the time, but we're brothers and we figure it out, we hash it out and all that kind of stuff. Is that the kind of dynamic that you guys have? Is there a lot of, you know, kind of back and forth, or is it just natural and it comes easy?
Yeah, I think probably more so with the current sort of like the newer songs we've been doing. I think we make a more concerned effort to really to pull the songs apart a bit more and try and get everyone's input to just really develop the best product that we can. I think earlier on in the days for our first EP, a lot of those songs I'd written, they were just sort of done, and we got in a room and we jammed them out, and it's kind of what you hear on the EP. Whereas I think with this one, we've really got together and just made sure we've pushed every little nth out of the song as we possibly can. So it's been a bit more back and forth, and obviously we want to include everyone's influences and their little flair in the song. So be kind of a bit stale and boring if it was just me. Here's the program drums. Here's what I've written. Just play that.
Right.
You know, but the trick. Yeah. Sorry. Go.
No. If you're done, I was going to say, like, mentioning that first EP for me, that was really like a forming and storming of the relationships that we now have, and I guess the roles that we've settled into comfortably in the way we work together. Like, speaking from my experience, the first EP, I love it, but I do it very differently now based on the relationships that we have because of that EP. For instance, quite towards the end of having, which is actually the last song on the EP, Miles. I remember around that time we'd been in a band for, I don't know, a year or two, and I was getting more confident with saying, hey, you know what, I think like this part of the song might be like overkill. How do we feel about that? Because it wasn't my song. Sam wrote that, and he was great. He was like, look, let's try it. And then the next thing I remember him saying was like, that's better. Like, it's not going on so long. And I think that was me testing the waters in terms of how I feel comfortable, like, with my voicing my opinions and how others are reacting. And so that's kind of then just developed to, what you were saying. We're definitely not a band that yells at each other at all. We're probably really, I think we're lucky that we're all at a very similar stage in terms of our level of musicianship and development of being in bands, and having that experience. So that translates pretty much directly into respect for each other in the way that we say, like, it's often like a bit of a feedback sandwich. Like, that bit sounds great. Could we try X, Y, Z? But if not, that sounds great. But it's like, it sounds like we're all like sitting around holding hands. But we are. I would say we are pretty. Respectful. Yeah. I think and we, like I said at the start, we're all getting older. Like, no one's got time for like other people, for any
like
extra
egos
shit
or any of that kind of stuff, or trying to speak over each other or any of that kind of crap. Yeah, that's one of the great things about getting older, right? It's like you just don't care about any of that.
Don't care anymore.
That miscellaneous bullshit anymore. You're like, all right, well, how do you want me to play that? All right, cool. Like you don't argue, or have to have your part, or have your say in things. You know what I mean?
It's
really
cool. I sort of take that feedback and that criticism, like, hey, whatever. Like, we're working on it to try and get the best out of the song. So, like, I think everyone's kind of very open to feedback, and that helps as well, I think.
I mean, and that's a really good point, right, Brad? Like, around, like, I know sometimes, going to rehearsal, I'm like, oh shit, okay, I got to get my gear, like, I got driver, and then I leave rehearsal more energized than I went there, and that's for me is like. That's why I'll keep coming back, I think if you start where it ends up being a bit hectic and you're leaving rehearsal worse than the mood you went in, then that's the beginning of the end, and no one wants that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's a really good marker, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool, because there is some, certain things in life, right, that you just don't want to do, but then at times, and then you just get pumped, right? Like going to a show. It's like sometimes, you get older and you try to go to shows, you're like, I don't know if I could stay up that late or whatever. There's 20 bands playing or whatever and all that kind of stuff. And then you get there and you're just like a teenager again, and just living that life and just having it. And you're just so pumped and you're ready for the next one. And then it takes you so much longer to get motivated to do the next one. But that's awesome that you guys feel that way and have that dynamic in your band, which is really great.
That's a really good point, Brad. I think it's that nostalgia that we've kind of always had. Even, it started in a band room when probably for most of us when we were like 13, 14, 15, just jamming it out. And it's still doing that. And we still just like, that's the fun part for me. And just writing music and just, but like to actually finally put it out there and have others enjoy it. It's great. It's like the icing on cake. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start at the beginning. Let's talk about how the band formed. And like I said, you guys got 6 people in there. How did you guys all get together and decide to form a band? And were you guys classmates or just friends from around the way? Or how did that all come together with Judo CHOP?
Well, Johnny, you're the Johnny's the head honcho, Grand Poobah as it will be. He's the so take it away, mate.
I'm absolutely useless at sales. It's not my forte, but I feel like I managed to sell this to all the members in the band and get my favorite musicians I've ever watched as well, like growing up and just watching him in other bands with my jaw just on the floor going, wow, I'd want to play in a band with this guy. I think we've all sort of played in various bands over the years since probably like mid-90s, late 90s. And we've kind of interestingly crossed paths a few times over the years as well. Like I've played in another band with Andre Cash No. So we did that for a good, maybe, a number of years, probably in the early 2000s. And then, but we've probably, like Sam used to play in a band called Amadou, and we used to play shows with Amadou, and Ollie played in Foe Defeated, who are another excellent band from back in the day. So we've all crossed paths in the scene, and generally would have, known each other from somewhere or another. So I think forming this and where this sort of stemmed from was, I had a whole range of songs ready to go. Cool. I need members. Who can I think of? And Andre's the first guy to come to mind. Like, no one can play bass like this guy. So I'm like, damn, I've got to get Andre. Awesome. So hit him up on the phone, like, hey man, can you come and play? Jump on board. And had to twist his arm a little bit. But I think, probably over a number of years, but we got there. It was just that kind of thing. Yeah.
Ollie got me over the line, I have to say, because when Johnny was getting this project up and going, I was like, I was keen to play in a project, but I was like, who have you got as a drummer? That's a big part of it for me. I've been really lucky to play with some great drummers, before this project. And when I've got Ollie, I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, if you can get Ollie, then you've definitely got me, because he's when he showed me Ollie's playing on records and CD, I was like, this is the best drummer that I've heard, in Australia. To be a privilege for me to play with this guy. Obviously Johnny too, but just being that low end, that's a big part of it for me. So I think that was a selling pitch for me, Johnny. And on that, I think that kind of, I sort of came as a package deal, didn't I, with Az a little bit, because
that's right.
Aaron's one of our third guitarists who
2 for 1.
Yeah, and it was kind of I think Aaron got wind that we were putting this together and knew us all. Johnny and I played in a band with Aaron. He's like, oh look, can I join? And Aaron being such a great musician, great dude, it's like, well, why not? That's kind of why. We didn't set out 3 guitars wasn't our goal.
It wasn't wasn't a conscious decision, was it? Yeah. No. We had Aaron, and I don't think he was doing anything at the time, and it was just like, hey, do you want to jump on board? You're a really good guitarist. And it was like, to hell with it. Let's do 3 guitars. Why not? One of my favorite bands from back in the day.
It's weird, and I was going to ask you about that. As far as the genre of music that you guys play, that's that fast skate punk, technical kind of stuff, or just punk rock in general. And having 3 guitar players, it's just unheard of, especially in punk rock, right? It's usually just 1 or 2 guitars, but if it wasn't, a conscious decision, I mean, job well done, but it's so crazy. And that's what kind of makes, Judo CHOP, really unique, is having that 3 guitar players. But I don't know how you guys all make it work and play your own stuff and all that kind of stuff. But
it's definitely tricky. I think there's one of my favorite bands from back in the day. I don't know if you know them, Brad, the Fully Down. I believe they're from Ontario, but they had 3 guitarists. Brilliant band. And that kind of I just sort of reflected on them, hey, if they can do it, why not? But I think,
Sure.
Going back to referring to your previous question, like why things take a little bit longer. It's because like definitely we have to write 3 guitar parts. We have to like make them all work and harmonize, and that can be a bit of a tricky thing to do.
Yeah, and I'd say because we're we DIY our recordings too. I guess I was the sort of mainly skilled person in recording, but Johnny's really caught up doing a lot of all the guitars himself. But it's been a learning curve for us too. When you've got a third guitar player, the playing just has to be tighter, because anytime you double something, it's sort of like you put like this is one copy, cool. You try and copy it again slightly out, it gets a bit fuzzy. You do that enough times, then it just turns into slop. Yeah. And so that does make our recording process, I would say, a little bit more onerous. And you've really got to crack that fine-tooth comb out. And on top of 3 stacked guitars doing whatever, if it's a lead part, or even if it's chords, strumming, it's just got to be really tight.
Yeah, and how does that pan out? Like when you guys play live, like nobody can have an off day, right? Because everybody's responsible for like their own parts. And like you said, if you're doing like that, and one guy has a couple more beers than the other guy, and he's kind of behind and all that kind of stuff, like it just seemed to be tricky in a live setting. No.
Oh, absolutely, and it's the environment can kind of like those external factors that it can impact. Often we play in rooms that are like a sandwich box that we can't all fit on stage. So a couple of the guys, obviously, they've got wirelesses, which is thankfully, so they just get right out in the crowd and play. Got to sort of see them way down there, give them away, but that can make it tricky as well. Like I think just sort of impacting us and just the sound and trying. I think a lot of mixers probably have a challenging time to try and mix like 3 guitarists as well. It's not the norm. It's not the sort of standard. So.
Yeah, we've got a bit of help from the great guy, Chris. He's Chris Green, right? Who's he came into one of our rehearsals one day and really just helped us get basically each guitar player in their own space. So sort of one's a bit more mid focus, bit more treble throaty here, a bit more low end. It is a little tricky because the 3 guitarists really. No one's like, lead guitar here, rhythm guitar here. There's a little bit of that, but it's not super defined. But that Chris really did help us. Like, so each person get their sonic space, and then me on bass just come and destroy that by just playing too loud over everybody. So for me,
you're trying not to be Metallica and like have your bass like not be present when there's 3 guitar players. Like you definitely want to make a mark on your songs too. Right?
Yeah. I'm like I said, I'm glad that they like my playing because I don't know if it'd suit everybody.
It's like justice for all, love child. But I'm very much like Andre. Turn up. We want to hear you, man. Like I want the bass just kicking through. Because Andre probably does more like memorable lines than all of us put together. You really, the bass. You want it to shine through. I think that's important.
Never run behind me. You let me say what's coming. You're better off not knowing. To live on without fear. What's the price of freedom? Where can it be won? Do we go on like this? Do we go on like this? For all the wrong we've done.
it's awesome how you guys can make it work, and you know, and it takes that amount of years to be able to do that, right? You can't just start off like, oh, let's put 3 guitar players on there, you know, and just try to figure it out. You know what I mean? That comes with time and experience, right? And it makes the things easier to where, like, you know your instrument, you know, very well, but you know, at this point in life, and it makes things easier. But like starting off when you're 19, 20 and putting 3 guitar players in there, and everybody, you know, especially with the young egos that we all have when we're in our teens and early 20s and stuff, like that, just, you know, it's unheard of for, you know, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, kudos to you guys for making it work. Everything sounds great.
Thanks, Brad.
You know, I've been following you guys since 2021 and helping you out with singles and all that kind of stuff. It's been awesome. So let's talk about, I know that you've got something in the works as far as a new EP or an album, right? It's called Cosmic, that's coming out, and let's talk about that, when we can expect it, and another single along the way after Fearless.
Yep. Obviously, I think by the time that this goes live, we're probably maybe a day or two shy of releasing another single. So, you know, the next single is going to be on the 20th of March. And then following that, we're going to release another little nugget a week later. And then a week following that will be EP Cosmic Dust Out on the 11th of April. So it's all kind of pretty a bit of a jam-packed campaign. But, so you'll be able to get years around that, like a month's time, pretty much. But yeah, like, what should we sort of talk on Cosmic, Andre, around the sort of, there's a space theme about it, and it might be worth kind of touching.
I guess you know, sorry, I was like when we first got jumped into the coming all the way back to that drum session, you know, so we got those 5 tracks, and was like, you know, so then we really started thinking, well, you know, once we were finishing the songs, how do we actually want this to look like? Do we want to do another EP, or do we want to, because we already have, you know, we've definitely got, I probably would say 10 songs, Johnny, that we could choose from. And we're in the process of really picking the exact 6, say, for the next EP. And, you know, when we realize that is really close, like as soon as we're done here, we're already, you know, writing the next EP, like, you know, as in, like, I'd say polishing and moving past that stage on some of the tracks. So, when we realize we've got that ready to go, and it's going to be the same format, it'll be the same amount of songs. Well, instead of doing like 3 EPs in a row, you know, we, like I said at the start, we've sort of honed our process and the way that we work and talk to each other. I feel like we've honed our sound enough to be like, we consider, you know, like, I mean, even if we do something wacky, I feel like we're confident with our own sound to just be like, that's fine. Like, that suits us, you know? So if everybody signs off on it, then that's a Judo CHOP song, in my opinion. Like, even if it had piano accordion in it, it doesn't really matter. As long as everyone's on board, then we're happy. So, I felt like we sort of like, well, could make sense then to just, you know, to chuck the 2 EPs together. Probably another part of that that's coming to mind was really around finding a mixer as well, because we wanted that really consistent sound between obviously these 2 EPs, and you know, coming back to your first part around why did it take a while, that was actually part of our issue. You know, there's a lot of people with a lot of skills to do it, so that wasn't necessarily it, but it was also fitting someone that was willing to work with this 3 guitar you know, sort of sound, willing to work with what we wanted, which I think is a little unique. So we found a really good mate of mine in the band, Lachlan Dennis, from a band called No Quarter in Australia. Right. I mean, No Quarter, great band, great dudes, and so actually, when I first started playing bass was with Lachlan in our very first band. So I sort of cut my teeth with him. And you know, and him, he records all of No Quarter, so you know, he does all the mixing as well. So you know, he jumped on board and worked with us to such a degree to make sure that we were happy with the sound, and that it was actually achievable as well. You know, could actually work in a mix without all this competition having so much going on at times. And so I think when he fell into place as well, we're like, okay, we now have this person that can be consistent over a longer time frame, and we don't have to, you know, if this next EP comes out in a year or two, like, he'll still be there. You know, someone that hasn't moved on. We need that that assurity too. So yeah, I think those things that made it slow to start with are now sort of ready to go next time. And our process, I think, should be much faster for that next EP. But yeah.
Add on that, Lachlan, Dennis, he was awesome as well, just in terms of being so flexible with the amount of revisions that we'd have often with mixes in the past. You can sort of say by about the third or fourth time, they're just like, stop messaging me. That's it. This is what it's going to be. Whereas like Darcy wanted us to get the best we possibly could out of it, and he just didn't care. He was willing to just keep going and going until we said, that's it, we're signing off.
Crazy. I think a lot of mixers would just like walk away if they heard the amount of work.
I went to recording engineering school here in Orlando, and I went through it, for a year or whatever, and I got through the end of it, and the mixing and the mastering, and I couldn't even imagine, and I knew that maybe it wasn't the right career path for me, because it would just like, I love recording music and I love, working with bands, but that unlimited, like, oh, can you change this? Can you flip this? Can you, adjust the levels on here and there? Like that kind of stuff. Like you have to have like patience of gold to do that kind of job. And, kudos to those guys that are able to do it. Because it is a process, but I'm glad that you found somebody that you trust and is able to have patience with you guys and make any revisions that you guys need to do and all that kind of stuff. Right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's been great. It's been a really good process, and it's just been seamless, like having him on board to help us with everything. So
yeah. So all right. So the EP that's coming out shortly or sometime down the line, the first one is called Cosmic, and can we say that the name of the second one yet, or do you want to keep that on the down low? Because I want to ask you about the theme, because there seems to be a theme going on, and want to know what it is.
Johnny, you actually said it at the start.
Did he?
The second one is
Cosmic Dust. Yeah.
That's Cosmic Dust, and I think sort of going back to the start, sort of your initial question is like why it took so long. And I think like we could have sat there and recorded an album, but you probably wouldn't be hearing what you're hearing now. That would be in another 2 or 3 years' time. So it's like we just had this random concept of like, hey, let's just split it. Let's just make it like 2 EPs, and then ultimately at the end of it, it'll be like an album, and we can do it on vinyl potentially, hopefully. So that was sort of the idea behind it. But there is a space theme, which I think initially that was triggered by a sample that we've used on the first EP. And I think, Murray had some ideas. I think a lot of the songs, the lyrical content is around sort of space and just, I guess, our misconception of time here on Earth. There's some deeper sort of like themes around it, and, we're pretty insignificant, like in the cosmos of time, you know what I mean? So, it's just to make the most of it while you're here. So there is that underlying positivity as well. So we just sort of, we had this sample that we've used. I won't give too much away about that, but that sort of, kind of like that triggered like, hey, like, let's just roll with this. And some of these songs just all came together. So we'll just roll with that theme. I don't know if you got anything to add, Andre? Or?
Yeah, no, there's definitely like that organic thing around, we didn't sort of get together and go, right, write the word space on a board and go, this is our...
It's like Pink Floyd The Wall. I want to go from here to there. And all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. It's much more like, oh, hey, here's a common line. And, like Murray writing the lyrics too. When we were just sort of spitballing and having a yarn at a rehearsal, he's kind of just said, oh, did you know that this is about space? Like the song's like, oh, really? No. Like actually, it's actually a song off the next, like, Dust.
Sure.
When we were listening, to the song, and I was getting themes around, just say departure and move and leaving, and just sort of. But he was saying no, like he's actually saying that's like about interplanetary, like moving away, like sort of going into space. So, it's just the way. Yeah, it's probably more for Murray. I don't know, maybe he's been watching heaps of space documentaries or launch videos or something. Actually, it's probably more his kids, like from school. I mean, they're like drawing rocket ships and it's just
he's like, idea. I've got an idea. Yeah, it just takes your kid to give you an idea. No, that's No, I love the theme of it, and I think that's really awesome. I do like theme, kind of albums and all that kind of stuff. I like it when bands like kind of tell a story throughout like the album or an EP, all that kind of stuff. I've always been a fan of that. I always love, you know, full lengths or EPs, just in general. You know, I think with Spotify out there, I think people younger than us are more inclined to just like, I just want to hear the singles. I just want to hear and put it on my playlist and call it a day. But, you know, we come from that school of, I want to hear a full album and I want to listen to the lyrics and you know, either own the material, you know, like you said, if you're going to put it out on vinyl and any of that kind of stuff. There's still something to be said as far as, you know, albums and EPs. And, you know, I know bands sometimes just put out singles after singles after singles, but, you know, there's something to still be said about EPs and full lengths. And I still really enjoy the process of listening to a full record. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah.
For me, a big part of that is like, you know, the curating of the order of the, you know, the songs as well. So, you know, that journey is a big part. And that really dictates as well sometimes like and maybe not the style of song that someone's writing, but I think maybe Johnny, for instance, would put a bit more of a concerted effort and go, oh, you know what, like it's time for us to like maybe take a little bit of a different direction in terms of the type of song that's going to be written, because we're thinking of that overarching idea of, you know, what an EP and an album would sound like. It's not just this type of sound. It itself has to tell a journey at the meta stage as much as the micro each song has to as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you know, it's you know, I love everything that you guys are saying and all that kind of stuff, and I'm really looking forward, and I'm actually very curious on how everything is going to go. And now that I know, like, you know, what it's all about and all that kind of stuff, it's just one of those things where I'm like, all right, you know, after I put the kids down to bed, don't bother me for like an hour or two. Like I want to go, I want to listen to it from start to finish, all that kind of stuff, because I do that very frequently, especially, you know, running signal chords and listening to new albums and new bands and and all that kind of stuff. So once this EP is released, do we have a release date when we can expect the first EP?
Yep. We talk about 11th of April. So yeah, not too.
Okay,
We're looking probably
April.
like, you know, 4 or 5 weeks from now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right around the corner. Now, are you guys going to do kind of an EP release party anywhere? Are you guys going to play out and all that kind of stuff, or you got some dates lined up yet?
Some things in the works. Andre's sort of.
No, well, when you said like you know, we're going to an EP party like that, no, I'm like, that's where I was like,
it's not a bad idea.
Yeah. But the thing that we do have is you know, in the works, an EP launch. So yeah, we'll be doing a live show here in Melbourne, with the details coming really soon on that. Which we're really excited about. It's one of our favorite venues to play. That's definitely a goer. But in terms of the actual night, food for thought, Brad. Yeah.
Get the boys around here. Maybe you can join us online, Brad, and we'll get some party poppers.
I'll be there. Just let me know. Send me the link. I'll be there, man. I'll live vicariously. No, it's really cool because when I interview bands and stuff and I see them like, hey, we're going on tour to doing this, and I'm like, I'm living so vicariously. Like, I wish I was a millionaire to be able to, you know, if I had Jeff Bezos money, and I would just go like, oh, I'm going to go to Australia and, you know, check out you guys play and fake news and, you know, make that whole roundabout and all that kind of stuff. And I would just love to do that. That would be like my dream thing to do, you know, tour with my favorite band, you know, just go out on the road for like a year, you know what I mean? I wouldn't try to get in government and try to rule the world, you know what I mean? If I had $1 million, you know, zillion dollars, I'd just do stuff that's fun, you know what I mean?
So life, enjoy it, man. Absolutely. Yep.
Just a random thought I had, but
No, we need more people like that. Yeah, with money that just don't want to control people, right? Like, I've got money.
Yeah, no, I just want to have money and just leave me the heck alone. You know what I mean? I just want to like just call it a day. You probably won't see me. Like I'll be in and out of everywhere, but I'm not going to be on TV or any of that kind of shit. You know, that's my dream is to live on the beach and call it a day and all that kind of stuff. So
Awesome. No, you've always got a place to crash here, Brad, if you ever make it over to Melbourne. So
you know what? Australia is on my bucket list. You know, I was in the Navy for a few years, and my whole dream was to have the West Coast, but I got the East Coast, so I went out to the Mediterranean and all that stuff. But I never got a chance to go out to Australia. But it's definitely on my bucket list, especially now doing signal chord stuff and meeting a lot of Australian bands. And you know, I love a lot of Australian bands that are out there. Fake, like we talked about, Fake News, All Hope Remains, and you know, Bodyjar is one of my favorite Australian bands of all time. You know, it's just like I would love to go out there and see some shows and just visit. You know, I'm trying to get my you know, before we started recording, I told you my wife's best friend married in Australia, and he's from Sydney, and he goes every once in a while. His mom still lives out there, and I'm like, man, take me with you. Every time he goes out there, I'm like, please take me with you. I want to go out there. But just trying to make it work. It's been impossible, but one day I'll get out there and we'll crack a couple beers and
Absolutely,
hang out.
mate. Never say never. Yep.
Never say never. So Andre, I see that from my notes here, I asked Johnny for some kind of personal notes as far as like fun little facts for the band, and I see that you're an accomplished clarinet player. And you played extensively as a classical and jazz muso. So let's talk about how you got into playing the clarinet, man.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, definitely. Well, the clarinet came first, much before the bass guitar. So, yeah. Look, I mean, without going too long into the story, it was the recorder that really got me into it. So I was rocking the recorder
in school. You're rocking it in school.
Yeah. Loved the recorder. It was probably like year 3, and the big part of it for me though was when I was just starting year 4. They started a band, I guess, a school band at my school. And it was the fact that there was a vibe going on. Like lots of people wanted to join. I wanted to join, and already having played the recorder, I went in with my mum, and they're like, what instrument do you want? And I said, saxophone. I really want to learn saxophone. I don't know why, actually. Must have heard it somehow at home. And they're like, nah, sax is full. Plus, you've already been playing the recorder. We've got a clarinet for it. I was like a bit bummed out. Like, I was like, oh, really? Anyway, I started playing it, and then I think it's just the process of playing music and learning it that was actually the thing. It could have been the sitar. It could have been anything. It's just the fact that I think I'm just really pretty addicted to and really passionate about the way you learn, what it does to you as a person, what it does to your brain, the sound. So I just got onto the clarinet and then just didn't stop. Really, the other thing too was that I'm really grateful for at that initial instance was I picked up the saxophone many years later when I was, say, 19 or so, and it was so much easier to pick up. And I've heard the reverse, like, people that can play the sax and try the clarinet, and it makes sense to me because the clarinet is not a very logical instrument. It's got a lot of like oddities about it without going into it, but yeah, look, I just love playing the clarinet. I was fortunate to have some great teachers and some great opportunities to play and have fun, so I just kept doing that, did a degree on it, and that was like my uni was paying my way, was teaching clarinet, playing in big bands, playing a lot of opera, playing a lot of musical theater, classical stuff. Got to tour China, got to come to America, got to play the Rose Bowl parade, actually.
Really? That's awesome. That's badass.
Yeah. That was a crazy experience. Yeah, I was working for a conservatorium, so I taught all the woodwind guys, the flutes, clarinet, saxes, how to play their part, and then went over and marched it as well to bolster out their sound. And one of the craziest experiences in my life actually was walking that long Rose Bowl parade. I can't remember how long it was, but we started at 5 a.m. or something. And I remember walking, and there's this stealth bomber flew over us while we were playing, and it was surreal because I felt like I could jump up and touch it. And it also, the size, it looked like it should just fall out of the sky. Like, it didn't look. That was a really
Tom Cruise just put his head out and just go, hey.
No, he was hanging on the side. He was doing a stunt.
Yeah. So, look, I mean, that's without going into it. Like, clarinet's given me a lot of great things, and I still play. Like, I've got a gig next week. It's just smaller scale. Gypsy jazz kind of stuff that I just enjoy doing with mates now. Yeah.
Yeah, and now was that kind of kind of setting the I guess the idea of, or I guess what I should say is learning that and going to bass, was it easier to learn the instrument because you already know kind of song structure, you're already teaching people, and why'd you pick up the bass after doing clarinet and all that kind of stuff? Did it help you? Yeah,
look, so one of the main reasons I picked up bass, so I guess when I was listening to music, say in year 7, like really early high school, I was listening to, like Offspring, burnt CDs I was getting from mates, like Rage Against the Machine, Chili Peppers, this kind of stuff. Like I liked music, like I liked rock music, and I liked the sound of rock music. I didn't know much about how it was created. I just liked it. And it was running parallel to me listening to Benny Goodman and Duke Ellington and classical clarinet and classical music. And I think, being in quite a rigorous musical upbringing, like, really strict around like learning scales and technicalities and all those things, when my mum and dad were like, what do you want for an 80th birthday present? I just was like, I want a bass guitar and I don't want any lessons. I kind of was like, maybe it was my rebel. I was like, I don't want any lessons. What I wanted was this. It was kind of like this freedom of something I didn't understand, because I didn't understand it when it came to me. And I just was like, looked up tabs, tried to work out how to play them, but it was all by ear. And I think that was something that was really liberating, because when you're, I'm classically trained, I play jazz now, but that was quite a journey for me to really untrain myself to go, my fingers just want to do this, but am I really concentrating as to why I want to do that from my ear? So for me, it was about like rebelling a bit against the way I'd learned and what I wanted to explore a new way of learning. And I think that's definitely how I approach the bass still to this day. I mean, I've had lots of tips from mates who are guitarists, mainly guitarists. They're like, try this out. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds better. Like, blah, blah, blah. But it's more when I write my parts, I try my best to not have my bass. And I try to like just come up with a part in my head and then go, is that even playable? Sometimes it's not playable. I'm like, oh shit, can I work some quirky way out? Maybe I can't, but like I kind of like to be this thing that I really just focus on how I can use my ear and how I can fit in with everybody else. So yeah, that's kind of, and like we hailing back to the start, having 3 guitars, there's a lot going on. So for me as well, it helps me to go make sure, am I playing something that's filling a spot, or what role do I need to play? So I'm really focusing on listening as best that I can to what the music needs from my part, and I'm not clashing. Am I adding? If it's not adding, then it's not the right part, right? I need to. So it's like a long-winded way, but it's sort of that's the way I approach bass, and it's sort of this anti against the way I was learnt on clarinet.
I love it. No, that's awesome. That's an amazing story. I mean, that's a full circle. That's
That's cool.
That's incredible. How it's like 2 random instruments and you've mastered them both, man. That's a great story.
It's crazy. You've even enlightened me, Andre. I had no idea why you picked up the bass. You got me thinking, bro. I was like, why did you start playing bass?
It's like anything though, like not that I really sat down and really thought about it like that, but it is dead right. And because I still do that to my dad to this day on clarinet. Still, I'm like, I try to play as much without music as I can these days, because it makes me focus on different things. Maybe it's just something in me. I feel like that's my weakness as a musician is so. Or maybe just something that I haven't done as much of, so I just try and push my ear as much as I possibly can.
No, that makes sense. All right, so Johnny, so your little tidbit of information here, you're a certified sign language interpreter. Let's talk about that. How'd you get into that?
It's interesting story. So both mum and dad were born profoundly deaf, so I've grown up only child to 2 deaf parents. So that's sort of, I've always been around the deaf community, even growing up as a kid. I recall going to barbecues with mum and dad and like other deaf adults there and just signing. Like that was just, I never knew anything different.
It's natural, right? Yeah.
It's just a natural organic thing that just sort of came to that point. So I think as the years kind of went on, I've sort of done I had a bit of a different journey with careers and those sorts of things. But sign language is something that I always sort of look forward to. Like, hey, like at some point in time, I actually want to be a sign language interpreter. So that only came to fruition probably like 3 or 4 years ago. So, when I hit 40, I thought, look, I think this is probably the right time now. So I had to study a course, like a diploma for 2 years, an interpreting diploma. And then from there, you sit something which is called your NATI. So that's how you get accredited. And all languages get accredited through the NATI certification sort of process. So it's a pretty rigorous sort of test. So I got that, and then I've got my certification in sign language. But having said that, I don't actually practice it full time. So it's something I sort of do part time on the side.
Yeah.
Jobs come up, I'll do it. But I don't know. You may have even recalled watching our last film clip, Brad, Disconnected. One of the ones we did back in about 21, and then there's a little segment at the end where we actually incorporated a bit of sign language. So that was just kind of something wanting to.
I don't remember that. I'll have to revisit it. For sure.
Revisit it. Yeah, Disconnected. So it's just I think the whole song, I think the theme of the song is about being disconnected from everything, regardless whether phones, technology, having those kind of those other impeding things. But we wanted to, with language, it was something that we wanted to really kind of highlight. So we did in that song. We just said, well, why don't we just do an interpretation in sign language at the end of the song and try and connect language as another means of building connection with people. So that was an interesting process. But that's kind of like I say, that's how I sort of got into it.
How is it? How you said both your parents are deaf. Like how was it? Kind of I mean, being a musician, I'm sure it's tough. Trying to tell your parents that's what you're doing and they can't hear you. I mean, is that are they proud of you? Kind of a deal, and it must be such a kind of a trip to where it's like you pursued music and and they can't hear the stuff that you're doing. Is there like Braille for music? Like, can you hear stuff? Like, I don't know. I'm like totally ignorant on that.
I used to like growing up with Dad. To answer your question, they're like super proud. And although they've never heard me play music, I recall even like back in the day, like as a teenager, sitting there with Dad on the guitar, going, "Hey, Dad, put your hand on the headstock and try and sort of feel the vibrations. I want to see if you can actually feel the music." So like they've never actually heard me play, but it's had its pros and cons as well. Obviously, I can turn things up as loud as I want. Let's max the gain out on 10 and the volume jacked out, and come back drunk at like 2 a.m. and play the drums, and no one's going to hear any different. They're sleeping next door. But
oh wow!
So I definitely took advantage of it in a lot of ways.
Kind of got lucky in that department.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's been like I'd be quite lost without music. It's always been my sort of safe space. And growing up with a sort of bit of a different, had its own challenges growing up with two deaf parents, and I don't have any brothers or sisters either. So for me, music was something I could always sort of turn to. My guitar would be there in my room, and I could just get in there and just get lost in it. And so that's fortunately that's just carried with me throughout from the age of 13, and I'm 44 now, and it's still love it. I still got that passion that I used to have even back then.
Yeah. What about the guitar that you really love? What were some of the bands that you got into that made you want to get into guitar and say, okay, that's the instrument I want?
Yeah, I went through the grunge era, as I suspect most of us probably did, through the mid-90s, like Nirvana, and then even Silverchair, like they released Frog Stomp. But I think at some point, there was a point I discovered Metallica, and that was like the turning point. I was like, hey, what is this? This is insane. Master of Puppets and Kill 'Em All. So there was definitely a few years where I kind of like trying to finesse my guitar playing by just like listening to Metallica and doing covers. And then I think I recall being at a skate park, like it would have been like probably like 15, 16, and someone was playing Pennywise, Unknown Road. They had like the old sort of ghetto blaster on top of the vert ramp, and they just had it cranked. I'm like, what is this? And it just caught my ear, and I'm like, man, and like just since then, punk music just kind of just got me hooked. I just love the energy, like the speed of it, and even just the culture of it. Just like it's like going through, pre-pubescent like teen, like not really having an identity and that sort of thing. And I think there was a really good community even there that you could just connect with, and it was just through music, and people just didn't judge, and they didn't care, who you were and what you stood for. And I think, that's kind of how, got it. But for me, it was a lot of the local bands. That's kind of, there's some awesome bands, like obviously Bodyjar back in the day when they released Rimshot. That was an awesome album.
Yeah. Glossy Books was my
Glossy
jam.
Books. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, so seeing a lot of Bodyjar shows, but even like bands such as like 1 Inch Punch, who sort of that became NYC, Ceiling. There was who else was there? Guy like Foe to Feed Him, like Ollie, like the drummer. I used to love his band before I knew Ollie. They were quite good in the scene back in the day. So yeah, a lot of the local bands are kind of what inspired me to sort of start playing music. But then, there was obviously like Strung Out, Propaganda, Lagwagon, those kind of things as well. But yeah. No,
it's awesome, and I saw I did see that you did. Speaking of like Pennywises and these legendary bands that like you love and stuff, I saw that you played with one of my favorite bands of all time, and I have to ask you about it. It's a band called Ignite. One of my favorite bands of all time. I got a huge sign in my man cave for it. How was it? Were you a fan of Ignite before you played with them? Because I would have been totally fanboying out if I was playing with Ignite. How did that all come about? And a Wilhelm Scream too. I saw you guys were playing with Wilhelm, and you guys got that kind of vibe too. That like technical, what do I call it? Tourette's punk. Kind of like the System of a Down is like Tourette's metal. Like I love just like the intricacies of it, kind of a deal. But Ignite and a Wilhelm Scream are two of my favorite bands. But Ignite is one of my heroes. So how did that come about, and how was that show or shows? Did you play a whole bunch of shows, or just one? Was it just one show?
We just did the one show, but it was literally with Wilhelm Scream specifically. It was just a dream come true. I think Misha from an awesome band, Knife Hands, you probably may have heard of. He was running the show along with Brock Devlin, who runs Blood, Sweat and Beers. It was a promo company bringing some bands out. So I think we just handed Misha and say, can you get us on the bill? And he managed to make it work. And it was literally a dream come true. Was it, Andre? Like they are one of my favorite bands.
Zoli as a singer was just like, when I first heard him, I don't know, I can't even remember like what I was doing, because I think it was just I had to just be silent. I was like, what is this? Like, I just never heard vocals like it. They were just out of this world. And I remember just listening to them non-stop when I first heard them for such a long time, because they were just so powerful and incredible. And I think those kind of memories you have when you first hear a band and they just do that, and then you just listen to them for a while. And Wilhelm was the other band for me, and it was what was it, Ruiner? With The King Is Dead. And I remember and I'd been playing bass for a couple of years at that point. I'm like, well, that sounds like this could be done on the bass, so let's investigate that. That was what it really was. It was just these kind of innovative bands. Parkway Drive was actually another band. The first time I heard them, the speed or something about it, I was like, this just fascinates me. And to be able to play with two bands that gave me that reaction in Wilhelm and Ignite. And to be honest, there's probably other bands I'm forgetting that we've played with that have done that to me. Is like, pretty special. Well, really special. It's sort of like one of those things where whatever happens in your life, you did that. There's a thing that you were able, and it's not you feel really privileged and lucky that you were able to. But by saying that too, Judo CHOP just didn't turn up. Like, we put in all the hard work, so it feels really nice, I think, as well, to get to play with bands that have got they've done their hard work, and that's the reason that I really enjoy their music. And you feel sort of like, wow, I've been able to work hard to be able to play alongside that band even for one night. It's really really nice for me. It's really cool, really cool.
Stephen, just sort of on a note on that, I just recall even watching Wilhelm Scream do a sound check, and there must have been like 5 or 6 people in the room. I'm just like, wow, man. I feel like just to sit there and get that opportunity to see one of your favorite bands just run through a couple of the songs. That was sick. I loved it. Yeah.
No, it was and speaking of which, I love Fake News and I follow those guys, and I know you're really friends with those guys too. But I just saw that they did some shows with Pennywise and Mill and Colin, which Mill and Colin is one of my favorite bands of all time as well, as long as with Pennywise too. And I was living vicariously through them and watching them do that kind of stuff, and I was just like, oh man, that's so fucking badass. See bands that I'm into like open up for other bands, and all that kind of stuff, and just seeing how everything kind of works and comes together. I think it's really cool that you guys get the opportunities to play those shows and all that kind of stuff, because I know it's hard for Americans to get out there and play. It's a big cost. Touring's a big cost. Like, you guys coming to the States, that's a huge ordeal. And I've talked to a lot of bands that are like, it just cost doesn't make sense, kind of a deal. But it's really cool to see American bands go over to Australia and get local bands and get them to play. It's really cool to see and witness.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's the same deal, like testament to Fake News for all their hard work to get on those shows.
Absolutely.
You know, like it's like we would love to do it, but we love that they're doing it too. You know, it's just
so stoked for them to do it, and just sort of seeing the name up, Fake News, in the big lights, you know, at the back of the stage. It was rad. Like they obviously had a ball, so keen to catch up with the boys and find out a bit more about how it went.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, so last question before we take off. All right, so dream tour. What is the dream? What is the dream for you, Johnny and Andre, as far as like your dream lineup that you would love to either headline with, open up for, any of that kind of stuff? Go for it.
Good question. I could, like on a, like we're talking like a national smaller scale. Like I think like a band like Propaganda or Strung Out would be just something. I'd be stoked to be on that kind of bill.
Yeah.
We were, funnily enough, we were in the running to get on Punk Rock Holiday for this year, but we just missed out by a number of votes, which was a bit of a shame. So I think on a larger scale, being able to go overseas and actually play a festival like that would be sick. Like, you know, alongside, you know, 50 of your favorite bands, you know, that'd be brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, look, for me, it'd probably be just key bands. I mean, I have to say Wilhelm, playing with them already.
Yeah.
I wouldn't name it again, because there'd be bands that I haven't played with, but it'd be my big all-time favorites, like Propaganda. Definitely got to be up there. The Descendants. I mean, they're as bass players, particularly, but as musicians, as songs go, for sure. But I think I'd throw a good party element in there too, and bands that I've played with a bunch of times, like No Quarter, but they're mates, and they're such good value that I'd chuck them on that dream bill, because for me, it's it's as much as playing with bands that I love, it's being around people that I really like being with too. So
exactly, making it more of an experience. You know what I mean? Yeah, because you don't. Pennywise would be great, but you don't know them. You know what I mean? Like if you tour the states and all that kind of stuff, and be able to tour the states with your mates. Oh, that rhymes. Hey, there you go.
Yeah, that's it.
No, that's awesome. Well, Andre, Johnny, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it. I'm a huge fan of your band. I'll be living vicariously through you, and best of luck to the new EPs on the way. I'm really stoked to hear more. If there's anything that you guys need, let me know. Happy to help out along the way. So always a pleasure talking to you and finally meet you in person. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. And as to you, bro, like, thanks so much for all the support that you've given us over the years and for having us on today. We're really, really privileged to be here and have a chat about what's coming up. And we're pumped to show you what we've got in store. Hope you dig it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, bro.
Yeah.